Just like in basketball, Tractor Supply knows that a winning season takes practice, teamwork, and a can-do attitude. It's Bracket Challenge season. And the Fox Sports Radio Bracket Challenge is live. So be sure to complete your bracket at foxsportsradio.com and do it right now. The winning bracket in the Fox Sports Radio Bracket Challenge will win a $2,500 gift card to our friends at Tractor Supply, and a perfect bracket will win you $1 million. That's right, $1 million for a perfect bracket. So fill out your bracket now until Thursday morning. This Thursday morning before the games begin. Visit foxsportsradio.com to register, to get rules, and to fill out your bracket. It's all sponsored by Tractor Supply for life out here. Deion Sanders has an idea. All right, he's got an idea. He would like to save the spring game. Here was the Colorado head coach speaking yesterday.
Spring game will be televised. ESPN2 will broadcast spring game on the 19th. We got to sell this thing out and pack this thing because the way the trend is going, you never know if this is going to be the last spring game. I don't believe in that. I don't really want to condone that. I would like to play the spring. Actually, I like to play against another team in the spring. That's what I'm trying to do right now, to have it competitive. Playing against your own guys kind of get monotonous, and you really can't tell the level of your guys because, you know, it's the same old. Everybody kind of know each other towards the end. I would like to style it like the pros. I would like to practice against someone for a few days, then you have the spring game. And I think the public will be satisfied with that tremendously. I think it's a tremendous idea. Yeah, I've told those personnel who should understand that it's a tremendous idea.
All right. What do we think?
I love it. Absolutely love it. Love this for college football and hope it becomes a trend. And I also think it's important that it's Coach Prime that's doing this because he tends to be a disruptor, kind of a first mover in some ways. And right now, the spring game is dying for some blue blood programs. And I hate to see it, but I understand why it's gotten to that point. And again, I've pounded the pavement. I'm not even going to say it because I know you guys get tired of me talking about the college football calendar, the 2 transfer portal windows, why I hate all of this. And I think it's disrupted really being able to make the spring game not only just kind of competitive, but also a really true evaluation of what some of these players are. Because every little thing is being evaluated by the players. If they're getting playing time, if they're not. If they're not, they're probably going to hit the portal. If they're first string versus second string, and even where they are and you know, as far as that goes. And then how the spring game goes. Instead of looking at it like, oh, man, I need to, prepare and build myself up this summer before training camp. It's like, well, I played terrible. I need to transfer somewhere else. So the college football calendar and 2 transfer portal windows has killed spring games. And it's why some teams are scared to even have one. And that's the sort of culture and program some of these schools are building. So I love this. I love this about Coach Prime. I love the fact that he's like, no. We're not only are we going to try to have a spring game, I want to play someone else. I want to bring in another team. And mind you, Fran Brown at Syracuse, he's at least accepted it publicly. So I don't know if they can work it out or not. I'd love to see that. I love everything Fran Brown has done in his building there in Syracuse, but it makes all the sense in the world. Now, look, if you're concerned about injuries, we can have that conversation. We can have that debate, right? Because you're going to sit there and say, well, what's the point of having a guy play for an exhibition game and risking injury? Well, first off, they're getting paid now. This is kind of part of it. You could say, well, no, they get paid to play in those games. Well, that's like saying it to an NFL player, so that those guys aren't paid to practice too and prepare and put themselves in a position to win. They're only paid to go show up on game day, even if they're not prepared, even if they're out of shape, even if they don't know the game plan. That's kind of all of it, right? That's kind of all of what goes into what your paycheck is looking like, and that's the day and age we're at with NIL. So I love this for Colorado. I love it for their players because I think they'll actually get some meaningful development out of it. I love it for Syracuse if they end up doing it. It'll prepare a bunch of, young, maybe inexperienced guys who have not necessarily played a road game ever in college football, who have played in an environment, who have played at altitude. All of that. I think it'd be a really, really cool experience for everyone involved. And also, I think there's another like monetary side to this. I think it's going to be broadcast on ESPN too.
Yeah.
He can start selling the rights to this. Like, that's something that's, I mean, the rights are already negotiated within some of the conferences, but you can sell this and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And since Coach Prime's gotten to Colorado, they've made the spring game something bigger because of him and the success they've had. I think there's a lot of intrigue around the program. So I love this in every single capacity. I know there'll be some naysayers. There'll be some people who will talk this down. But with where things are headed, and as Coach Prime touched on it, like, this is awesome for college football, and I hope it happens.
There was the NCAA spokesman reached out to ESPN on Monday and said, under the current bylaws, football teams can't play against each other in the spring.
Which, again, no one really abides by the NCAA bylaws right now.
You know who I think would be open to doing this with Prime? I'll bet Belichick would. Coming from the NFL model, like who wouldn't be interested in seeing North Carolina, Colorado, Deion Sanders, Bill Belichick?
Well, like I said, you've already got Syracuse just signed up.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it seems like there's possibilities to make a little bit of cash and gain some traction and bring back the relevancy of the spring game with all these teams opting out now. Could be fun.
I think as a player's perspective, coming from Coach Prime, I think it comes from the player that he was. I back in our day, and I know a lot of things have changed, but back in our day, that was something that you looked forward to, and the fans look forward to it. You know, I've seen a lot of the blue-white games over the years, and to just watch the decline in participation from and attendance from the fan base has been, to me, it's just kind of sad. It's sad to see the lack of excitement surrounding the game itself, and it's because it's basically become a glorified practice. Now, with that being said, I still think, even though you're not playing, because even if they played against, if it was an inner squad, or excuse me, like a different team coming in and scrimmaging, I still think it's going to be held like how they do it in the league, which would be, it's a glorified practice. Like, you'll have a live period or two maybe, but it's not going to be a game, like, quote unquote, like it's not going to be a game at this point. It is going to be a controlled environment. Like, you may have 11 on 11 and it might be live, but it's going to be a quick whistle, and there's going to be more of you seeing probably a format that's maybe made for a Saturday spring game, and not just so much a practice. But it's become a glorified practice. You can call it a game. It's not a game anymore. You know, when we played, you know, probably early mid 2000s on down, they were really games. Like, you showed up, the blue team was the blue team, the white team was the white team, and you wanted to see who was going to win. And for a lot of guys, that defined and dictated how you were viewed going into the summer workouts. And if you understand football and the calendar, summer workouts, you don't really get an opportunity to win your job in summer workouts. You can show that you're willing to go to class. You can show that you can get in the weight room and do the conditioning the way that you're supposed to do it. But that doesn't necessarily put you ahead on getting onto the field. Like, you'll do field drills, but it does not get you ahead on where you're at on that depth chart. Spring football does. And that's why I think a lot of early enrollees, that's a good thing to go get into winter conditioning and do a spring football training. So I think when you look at the spring game has been that opportunity where if you had a really, really good spring practice-wise, because the coaches are going to see it in practice anyway. But to give it to the fans, like, to get out there, you had a good spring. Oh, there's a buzz around this player, that player, and you get into the spring game, and then the fan base is able to see those players. A lot of those players are new players because you've graduated players, them going into the league or whatever it may, or just moving on. It's always been like a showcase. It's been an exclamation point or a period, an ending to what spring football and spring, spring ball has represented. So, I like what Prime is doing. Obviously, if you were to have a game and you can make it a spectacle, an experience, he brings in musicians and artists and stuff like that perform. He turns it into a real experience. I think if you're able to do it to that magnitude, it's certainly something that's pretty cool because it still holds on to some of the elements of the past, even though it's evolving and moving into the future.